Okay, go see 1917. Um, it's a great movie. If I can condense what I watched, and if I can spoil as much as I can possibly remember, this movie is set in 1917, the year, right smack dab in the middle. Actually, towards the end of World War One. For those of you who don't know, or who haven't studied this yet, reading from Wikipedia, the First World War, or the Great War, as it was known, was the first big, massive global war originating in Europe that lasted from July 28th, 1914 to November 11th, 1918. It was considered the war to end all wars, because this was a time in history when technology had progressed, or was progressing, so that battles were fought on foot or by horse previously, and now they're fought, or they were starting to be fought with tanks and planes, more mechanized military. You go from bullets and bayonets to artillery and aerial assaults. There's a I can find it. There's a quote by Will Rogers. You can't say civilization don't advance. In every war, they find a new way to kill you. That was pretty much this war. It led to mobilization of 70 million military personnel, including 60 million Europeans, making it one of the largest wars in history. It is also one of the deadliest conflicts in history, with an estimated 9 million combatants and 7 million civilian deaths as a direct result of the war, while resulting genocides and resulted in a 1918 influenza pandemic, which caused another 50 to 100 million deaths worldwide. Yeah, all because a Bosnian Serb Yugoslav nationalist assassinated the Austro-Hungarian royalty Archduke Ferdinand. This is they don't really hint at it. Well, I mean they hint at it, but they did. If you know what you're looking for, they kind of nudge at this globalism. You see French and Canadians in the trenches with the British. Globalism, I've heard in classes, and Razor Fist has a video on this that goes into great detail, or at least greater detail than I can. That globalism is what caused World War One. The globalism of World War One caused the nationalism of World War Two, or the National Socialism. And by that I mean one country decides to go to war with another, and every country that the first country has any kind of treaties with gets drug into it as well. Same with the second country. Every country that is involved with trade or has an interest in country number two gets drug into this whole thing. Even if the allies of country one and two are allied with each other, now they have to go to war because of all these treaties that they've signed together. This massive network, interwoven mush of all these countries that now have to go to war with each other because of their other allies. And instead of one country just saying, "I'm sorry, you're on your own. You caused this. You made the bed, now you have to sleep on it. Sleep in it." They just said, "Hey, I need you to get me another mattress." But anyway, so yeah, Austria wasn't too happy with Serbia's response, and there it goes. As I stated before, a network of interlocking alliances enlarged the crisis from a bilateral issue in the Balkans to one involving most of Europe, and then later on parts of sub-Saharan Africa. How? I mean, that's in the books. And of course, the armistice signed on 11th of November 1918, which effectively ended the war. Onto the movie. So the movie starts off with two British soldiers, Lance Corporal Blake and Lance Corporal Schofield. They're given the task to stop a raid. It was kind of set up that Germans line, the way the war was fought at that time, trench warfare. The Allied forces had theirs, Axis. I don't think they were Axis or Allied at the time. British forces and German forces were set apart from each other, and there's a no man's land in the middle with lots of death. Their commanding officer gives them the task to go across enemy lines to deliver a message to Colonel Mackenzie to stop a charge that the Germans actually set up. The intelligence shows that the Germans have fallen back, and the British decide they're going to charge ahead to put the Germans further on the run, when in fact the Germans had actually left their area specifically to get the British to charge so that they can just mow them down across an open field. And that pretty much sets up the first section of the movie, and it gets really good from there. Neither one of these soldiers really wanted to do this, especially Lance Corporal Schofield, because it pretty much meant certain death. But Lance Corporal Blake's brother just happens to be in that battalion, so now there's some skin in the game, and it's not just for the sake of this other battalion that now he has to go save his brother, and there's kind of that element of Saving Private Ryan in the middle of it. But so Blake and Schofield take off, and the whole movie, at least it's two sections of continuous footage the whole way through. They leave the wire and go across enemy territory, or no man's land. No man's land is just covered in death in a way that I haven't seen in a movie either before or in a long time. I read the history, so I knew what to expect, but man, it's real. Craters and corpses, horse corpses from cavalry, bodies buried in rubble, or parts of bodies buried in rubble. You can almost smell it. It's tough. But they get across that field, go through the wire, drop down into the German trenches. Nobody's there. They're gone. So intel showed correct. They get past that point, and there's a scene where the Germans have rigged a series of bombs or the tunnels to explode so that they push British forces in a specific direction. So hey, now we're really sure that this is correct intel. They run through the cave system or bunker system, come out on the other side, and across the field there's a farmhouse. So they go check out the farmhouse. There's nothing there. They go to this little lean-to barn area, and it just happens to be a fresh bucket of milk. So someone was there fairly recently to milk a cow. And Lance Corporal Schofield, fills his canteen with some fresh milk, which that comes into play later. There's this nice little dogfight scene where, and you see that in the trailer, German plane shot down, almost kills him. The pilot's alive. They drag him out. They gotta, render some aid, and the German pilot stabs Lance Corporal Blake in the stomach and kills him. So the guy who was trying to save his brother ends up dying in the process. So Lance Corporal Schofield's just on his own now. Another unit comes by, gives him a lift to the next point. There's a little character development, sort of a lot of space staring. This guy has seen his share of death, and like I said before, this whole movie deals with PTSD quite a bit, and it shows. It doesn't tell. It shows. So they get to the next point, and the next point is this bombed out French town, and his ride takes off. The other unit takes off. And just as he's trying to cross the river, this bombed out bridge, so he's got to cross the river. And just as soon as he starts to cross the river, his friends are gone. He has no backup. A sniper starts to shoot at him. He makes it across the river, gets the sniper once, goes up the stairway into some tower, and as the door opens, he gets the shot off to kill the German, but in the process the German just has ample opportunity to shoot him in his helmet, the steel pot, with a pistol. German dies. Knocks Schofield backwards down the flight of stairs. His helmet's off, so of course he hits the back of his head on the landing, and he blacks out. And he wakes up at night. Keep in mind, this order that he's been given to deliver a message to Colonel Mackenzie has a sunset. It has a time frame, because they're planning on going on this raid in the morning. So he gets up, gets his bearing, starts running because someone's shooting flares. Oh great, the German, or the French town that he was trying to get to is now German occupied. So he's got to sneak through as best he can, and as soon as he gets to what I can guess is a burning church, there's a shadowy figure. Not really sure if they're friend or foe. Turns out they're foe. There's a chase scene. He's running from the German. Now they're not called Yazidis at this point. There is no National Socialism. They're just Germans. Pointy helmet Germans. I had to suspend disbelief just a little bit because of this chase scene. He's running down a corridor. The guy's chasing him in a straight line, and the guy doesn't get a single round in. But he ducks into a building, hides with a French woman and a war orphan, and they're in some basement. And it turns out that this girl that is has the baby, it's not hers. This is a war orphan. And if you know anything about biology, this lady is either too young or does not produce milk for this kid. So there's no sustenance for the baby. Except, hey, I got this canteen full of milk. There you go. So he just gives all his provisions and rations to the kid and the woman, young lady, probably a teenager. As is Lance Corporal Schofield. I mean, these are young guys. These are very young people that fought and died in this war. And they, as the saying goes, they will not grow old. So he realizes what time it is when I guess the church bell's ringing. So I guess it wasn't burning chairs, a burning building of some kind. Chimes hit. He's got to get out of there. So he starts to sneak through. And this is early morning. He runs across some Germans that are quite pickled, and tries to sneak by him, but that doesn't work out. They sound the alarm, and start chasing him. And he drops all of his gear as he runs across a field across a bridge and into a river. And it's a moving river. And that's the point where he loses all of his gear. He doesn't have a rifle. He doesn't have his load-bearing equipment. He's got his uniform and his boots. That's about it. And his message. He got the message in his pocket. So he gets jumps off the bridge. And there is a sequence when the river starts to calm down. There's basically a dam of human corpses. And it looks like civilians from that bombed out town that were just executed. Just floating, bloated corpses. And he has to climb over these bloated corpses to get out of the river. And there was kind of an element of, it kind of seemed as if he had died, because there's this nice little, like, almost like a church service, hymnals being sung before these guys are about to charge over the berm. It turns out that's the unit he was looking for this whole time. And the sun has come up. They're ready to go over the wire. They're about to run across no man's land and get mowed down. I got to find Colonel McKenzie. And then there's this one of the apexes of, what's the plural for that? One of the climaxes of the movie. He has to get to Colonel McKenzie. Now, previously in the movie, it was stated, you need to tell Colonel McKenzie in a room full of people, because Colonel McKenzie's the type of person to ignore you just so he could get the glory. It doesn't matter how many bodies he stacks. He wants he's doing it for his career. He's one of those. So he finally makes it in. Tells Colonel McKenzie, stand down. They already sent the first wave. They were sending the first wave as he gets there. Hands Colonel McKenzie the paper, says, please, this is from the general. You need to stand down. We've already lost some men today because I didn't hear it fast enough. And of course, Colonel McKenzie, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, just dismisses it. Yeah. You're just one of those guys that doesn't want to do your duty. You're a coward. Get out of my my command office. I don't want to hear it. And finally, he hears it, reads the note. Okay, we got to stand down. He tells him off, basically. So Lance Corporal Schofield is looking for Lieutenant Blake, Lance Corporal Blake's brother. Finds him, tells him, your brother is not here anymore. Here's all of his effects. Sorry. So the movie ends with Lance Corporal Schofield, he's just spent. He's exhausted. There's, you know, if anyone deserved any recognition, that was it. But you know, the way things were back there, he probably would have gotten reprimanded for not getting there early enough. And, you know, the movie ends with him leaning against a tree, pulls a picture out of his pocket, and it's a picture of his wife and child, and turns it over, and it says, "Come back to us." Again, that whole PTSD deployment thing, it was rough. It was pretty rough. You know, I'm not Ricky Recon, Tommy Toughnuts. That's not what I did. I was an embarkation logistics specialist, and then I retrained for warehousing. But I did deploy. I've been, you know, received indirect fire while working on the flight line. I didn't. You know, I was a fobbit, for lack of better terms. When you're deployed, well, it's kind of the mindset that the movie went with. When you're home, you are worried about your duty and your friends. When you're deployed, all you can think about is your family. And at the beginning of the movie, Lance Corporal Schofield mentions halfway through the movie, he mentions he doesn't want to go home because either he can be an effective soldier or he can be an effective husband and father, but it can't be both. And that really grinds on people. Because like I said, when you're out there, your mindset is at home, especially about things you can't possibly handle. Even if it was out of control, if you were here, at least you'd be at home handling things. But again, they were elsewhere doing other things. And there's a quote by General Wes Clark, I guess, quoted someone else about other events, how we've got this big military and we can take down governments. So when all you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail. And you know, my personal opinion is, with a war like World War I, they should have at least, you know, looked at the situation and understood, like, there's no reason for us to fight this. You can fight your own war. We don't need to be involved in that. What? Forget Vietnam. But this movie is pretty somber, and it was a pretty rough ride, but good grief, it was good. I highly recommend it.